Okay, so we saw how some characters can have special meanings that are interpreted by the shell. Well, sometimes we want to use those characters just as those characters, that is, without the special meanings. And so when we want to do that, we say that we want to protect those characters. That is, we use other characters to remove the special meanings of those meta characters. So what are we talking about? Let's take an example. If you did something like ls star, that lists all of the files and directories in the current directory. So if you say ls, you see all of this. Let's say we did something like file, anything that starts with a with a D. Okay, so we see that it tells us desktop is a directory, documents is a directory, and so is downloads. So we know that this star is a wildcard character. We can also do things like file, or just keep it simple, ls minus l deskto, and then question mark. And we know that the question mark is interpreted by the shell to mean any character, but just one single character. So we know that we will get desktop. Okay, so these are the contents of desktop. A better example would be something like this. Oops. So this, once again, this question mark is a special character. It's interpreted by the shell to mean any character that matches, which means letters, numbers, anything. But there's only one. There's only one, and it's called desktop. Okay. So that's special characters. Now what is this all about? What is protecting all about? Well, let's say we wanted to, for whatever reason, we just want to print out star. So let's say we use something like this. And this will become useful, especially when we get into shell scripts. So for now, it may not seem all that important, but believe me, it will be important in the next set of lectures. So let's say we want to print out stars. So let me clear this. All right, and then we say echo star. Excuse me. So what we want to do is, what we want to see is on the next line, when as soon as we hit enter, we want to see just one asterisk or star. But we know that as soon as I hit enter, the star will be interpreted by the shell to mean any file or folder, any file or directory in the current directory that matches, so anything. So instead of a star, we get all the list of all the things that are currently in our directory. So basically the same output as ls. So if we say echo star, we don't get a star, we actually get a listing of all the files. Okay, so that's fine. So how do we fix this? How can we get just a star? So let's say the reason we want to do this is we want to say 7 times 5 is 35. Let's say we just want to print that. Instead of printing 7 times 5 is 35, we get 7, a list of all the files, 5 is 35. So we definitely do not want that. So here's how we can protect this star. If you just want to protect one character, use the backslash. So now we get this. And it turns out there is a way to calculate numeric expressions. So this is how we do it. And this is going to be something that we'll get into later on, but let's just do it now quickly. The command is expr. So you can do a man expr. And all it does is evaluate expression. So we'll take a look at this in more detail later. However, let's just try a few expressions. So instead of actually saying 7 times 5 is 35, we can actually compute it. And once we can do that, then we can do all kinds of complicated programming and computations. Okay, so this uses a couple of things that we haven't talked about. expr is value expressions. This backtick character we'll talk about pretty soon. All it means is execute a command. Okay, so this almost gives us the right answer, except even here we need the protection, the backslash character to protect the multiply. Okay, all we're doing is printing out. We want to print out 7 times 5 is 35. We use the backslash to protect this so that it doesn't give us a list of files. We use the backtick characters. This is not single quote, this is a backtick that's right under your escape button usually. And it executes a command. And inside that command, what we want to do is actually do the multiplication, 7 times 5. Once we do this, we can multiply any two numbers and print out what their values are. Okay, so now it works. Once again, this is just to show you this backslash character protects the star character. Okay, so once again, what is this thing about protecting characters? Well, when you use the backslash, the next character is taken literally. That is, it's not interpreted by the shell, it is protected. It is protected from interpretation. So you can say, you can use the star character or the greater than character. Remember that ordinarily there's a special meaning to the greater than, which is to use file output redirection. So if we said something like this, echo 7 is greater than 3, what will happen? You would think that it should just print out 7 is greater than 3, but no. What it will do is it'll echo 7 and redirect the output to a file named 3. So you might run into this. You might say, well, what happened? If you look at if you do a list of files using ls, lo and behold, there's a file named 3. Let's just get rid of that because that's going to be confusing. Okay, clear the screen. And so once again, you want to do something like this. Echo 7 is greater than 3. But you can't because this is the output redirection character. Well, now what you can do is protect this. That is, don't make it the output redirection character. Prevent that interpretation from the shell and use the backslash, and now you'll get 7 is greater than 3. Exactly what you wanted. Okay, so that's good. You might want to do this many times, not just for a single character. In that case, what you would use is the double quotations. So we could have done the same thing as above. Echo, double quote, 7 is greater than 3. Now you don't need the backslash because we're protecting all of this entire string. Even though the 7 and the 3 don't need protection, we can protect all of it. Okay, so 7 / greater than 3 is the same as double quote 7 greater than 3. Everything is protected. So you can do something like this. 7 times, let's say 5 times 2. And we just want to print out 7 times 5 times 2. Okay. There. Both of those stars are protected. So let's try something else. We can use the expr character just by itself. We can say expr 7 times 5. This won't work because the star is interpreted as a list of all the files in the current directory. So we have to protect it. And we get the right answer. So this is like a simple calculator. You can also there's another way of computing things, and that's using dollar open parens, 2 of them. You can say 7 times 5 is 35. Turns out there's also an exponentiation character that is x raised to the power y. So you can do 7 raised to the power 2 if you want, which should give you 49. So let's try that. There we you go. For whatever reason, it's somehow, I'll try this, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. That is, if you try to let's try it, 7 times 7 raised to the power 2. Yeah, it doesn't work. So if we try to protect the star star, EXPR takes that as a string. Unfortunately, let's try this. Let's try protecting each character. Nope, it doesn't like that either. Okay, so if you want to do exponentiation, use echo with the dollar paren. Need this, 2 parens. Let's take another look at the notes, and you might notice that there are double quotes. And with the double quotes, most things inside double quotes are taken literally. That is, they are not interpreted. The exceptions, the things that are interpreted, are the dollar sign, which is used for variable names like x, like let's say variable name $x, a variable x, and also the backticks, which we will talk about in more detail later, but you saw simple examples just now. Turns out you can also use single quotes, but there is a difference. If you use single quotes, it has even more protection, that it protects everything. Everything is taken literally. It's sort of, in some ways, you can think of it as stricter protection than double quotes. Okay, so once again, I can't emphasize this enough, that backticks are different from single quotes. They're 2 different characters. You may not have used a backtick ever before, but just keep in mind they are 2 different things. So what's the difference? The difference, you can see the difference when you look at variables. So what are variables? Turns out you can set up variables like this, x equals 5, and then you can print it out. Well, how do you print out a variable? Turns out you can't just say x. You know, that's the kind of thing you would expect from a language like Java, but it turns out in bash scripts you have to use, if you're trying to read the value in x, you have to use $x, and now you get the 5. Okay, so let me repeat that. You have to, if you want to set the value of a variable, if you're writing to a variable, you say x equals 5. Turns out it's very picky about the syntax. You can't have spaces. If you put spaces, nothing works. And if you want to print it, that is, if you want to read the value in x, you have to use $x. Okay. So what if you wanted to print out x is something? So let's say said echo x is $x. That works fine. But for now, for whatever reason, let's say we wanted to, if you tried this with double quotes, this would actually work exactly how you want it to work. Okay, so, and use double quotes. The dollar is actually interpreted. So the double quotes prevents everything from being interpreted. So for example, if you did something like this, x is greater than 3, this will work. So notice this character is protected. This $sign is not protected. Okay, so that's the difference. That's the exception. So the dollar is not taken literally. Well, how can you get the dollar to be taken literally? That's where the single quotes come in. So there are single quotes give you even more protection than double quotes. So if you want to say x is $x for whatever reason, you probably don't want to do that. But if you do, you want to use single quotes. So that's the difference between double quotes and single quotes. Single quotes protect a lot more than double quotes.